Hello again. We're here at the Kickapoo Tribe of Oklahoma, and we've got a distinguished set of panelists here. Thank you all for coming around and agreeing to meet with us. Let's introduce everybody if we can. We'll start down here with Janelle.
I'm Janelle Downs, treasurer, and my Kickapoo name is Gisaquariqua.
I am Kent Collier. I work in the legal department. My Kickapoo name is Chakaskak.
I'm Gilbert Salazar. I'm chairman of the Kickapoo Tribe of Oklahoma. My Kickapoo name is Apetuk.
I'm Kristen Wilson, the executive director of the Kickapoo Tribe, and my Kickapoo name is Minithenokwa.
All right, wonderful. Thanks, everybody. If I remember right, I was looking on your website, and it looks like almost everyone who works for the tribe has their Kickapoo name right there on the webpage too, which I guess speaks again to how important the language is to everyone here. We talked a little bit before with Chairman Salazar about language and how it is that sometimes casino profits are funneled directly towards helping with language preservation projects. I wonder if we could talk a little bit too about general kinds of cultural preservation and how it is that profits are funneled that way. Maybe Kristen, you might start there?
Yes. Our casino revenue money, we receive a portion of the overall revenue for program departments, and those program departments they supplement, which the chairman also spoke about, was some of our BIA, which is our police department, our ICW, our social
That's
services.
Indian Child Welfare?
Indian Child Welfare, yes. We actually supplement a lot. We have 2 full-time tribal employees that work in that we pay the salaries on. We also have the education department. We also have a community outreach, which that is more geared to our community overall cultural preservation. We provide services for our traditional homes, for the homeowners. We give assistance twice a year for their summer home and for their winter home. We also provide travel assistance for those that commute back and forth from Mexico to Oklahoma, because a lot of our tribal members do still participate in ceremonies in Mexico.
Okay, so they got to go down there, and that's a pretty good stretch. How far away is that?
It's a 12-hour drive to Eagle Pass, but then I believe it's an additional 3-hour drive to the village in Mexico.
Okay, yeah, so that takes a little bit of gas money to get down there.
Yeah.
And so casino profits go to help people with
those
ceremonial participation. Okay.
As well with burial assistance. We do provide a burial assistance for our tribal members that do pass away. We also have educational support. We do higher education scholarships, as well stipends for incentives for those that are enrolled in college.
Right.
We also do social services, which I believe he touched on, for our elders as well as our families with children, and then our single adults.
Okay. All right, very good. I know that there are some tribes that pay individually, what they call per caps or per capita payments. Is that the way that the Kickapoo people do it?
We do not have an allocation plan. In order to do a per capita payment, you have to have an allocation plan, and we do not have that. We've opted out and provide it back into our services. So that revenue does go back into our program services to provide a service for everybody, not so much as a per cap payment, but like with social services, education, to give those incentives to help become self-sufficient.
Okay, so kind of a general benefit. Ken, I wonder if you'd like to speak a little bit to cultural preservation?
Yes, I think for the tribe, cultural preservation is a very important priority, and I think that's evident by the fact that the tribe, the amount of money it spends on preserving the religion, the language, the efforts to preserve the language, the religion, traditional homes. Each year, I know Chairman Salazar talked about the gathering of cattails. It's a very important time of the year in the tribe when the cattails have to be gathered, and great efforts done in that, and it takes time and effort to build the traditional cattail reed home. And,
I can imagine.
Yeah, it takes a while, and I know in the last couple of years, with the droughts and stuff that we've had, it's been more and more difficult to locate cattails. So if anybody has a great water source that has a lot of cattails on it, and very tall cattails, the tribe get in contact with us here at the tribe because we'd be most interested in that.
Oh, yeah, I imagine that's getting harder and harder to come by.
Yeah, especially with this past year, we had a lot of rain, but in the prior 2 years, the droughts made it very bad, and we had to go farther and farther away. And usually we can gather the cattails just here in central Oklahoma. And even the tribal members that live in Mexico have to come up and get their cattails up here if there are bad droughts in Mexico. They come up here to do their cattails. And we also need trees, or certain type of pine trees or cedar trees for the traditional home as well, so we're interested in those. Another important resource for the tribe when it comes to culture is deer hunting. The tribe has to have deer and wild turkey at their religious ceremonies, but deer's the preferred animal usually, and we have to have that all year, and that creates problems sometimes with Fish and Wildlife and other jurisdictions about gathering the deer and having deer available for the ceremonies. So I think that that's a very important part of the tribe's religious, to have continue its ceremonies, and deer is part of those ceremonies usually.
Okay, great. Chairman Salazar, I'm told that you do a little deer hunting.
Well, I do a lot of deer hunting. I go as much as I can. Like Kent said, we need it for traditional ceremonies. We have baby namings, adoptions, and we need the deer for the ceremony, and we need it year round, and we have to just stay on a reservation to hunt. But there's limited deer out there sometimes, and we need as much as we can get. We have adoptions in Mexico that we go to, and we have adoptions over here, and I could say we need about maybe 30 to 40 deer maybe a year. That's just estimate, but I don't know. I'm just saying.
Right.
That's about how much we need every year.
Right. And I'm guessing that those sorts of resources that typically or traditionally would have been available to Kickapoo people are not as available given the current structures of federal and state laws. Is that right?
That's correct. Like I said, when we hunt deer throughout the year, that we try to hunt the deer on traditional land or trust land, so we don't have any conflict with state law. But there are times when the deer doesn't know the difference between state law and traditional lands, and that presents a problem sometimes.
Right.
Especially if it has presented problems in the past with law enforcement.
Right.
And Fish and Wildlife, because
even though it's my understanding that hunting rights are among the rights that tribes have not given up?
We're currently in litigation on some hunting right issues that was signed with treaties with the federal government.
I see.
Back in the early 1800s, yes.
Okay. Coming back to the question about casino profits, is land acquisition or reacquisition part of that project with casino profits?
Yes.
Okay. So here again, it seems to me like we're talking about casino profits not going to line the coffers or the pockets of tribal members, but to generally improve cultural, economic, and other living conditions for Kickapoo people?
Yes.
It provides employment conditions,
Yes.
I wonder, talking about employment conditions, Janelle, we were visiting a little bit earlier. You've been around here for a while?
Yes, sir, I have. I've had the honor and the privilege of serving on the business committee for 5 terms. I'm on my 5th term. I did 3 terms as the secretary. I'm doing my 2nd term as the treasurer. But before, I had worked for the tribe. I worked in the accounting department. I did payroll, and I did payroll for 30 people. This was back in early 90s.
30 people in the early 90s.
People. And now
Okay.
we're up to at least good 300-400 employees. I mean, we got our casino, we got our clinic, and then we've got the tribe.
We're talking about a 10-fold increase in the number of
Yes,
jobs
at least. Yes.
just for Kickapoo people.
Yes,
This
and
is not counting other folks who may be on the payroll who
No.
benefit in other ways economically
At least.
from your presence here.
Yes, and then I've watched us grow. There's a building down the road. I don't know if you've noticed that brown building. We had a little clinic in there. We had, like Chairman said, we had a little one-room clinic. We had a doctor come in maybe once a week or whatever. And then now we've got this great clinic. We've got dental, pharmacy, everything you can think of in there. But I've watched us grow. We've come a long way.
All right, very good. Chairman Salazar, you mentioned before that casinos may not be around forever. What sort of challenges do you see facing Indian gaming in Oklahoma these days? And I'll just address that to anyone who wants to take it up.
I'll just say, I think we got, well, there's, like Janelle was saying, there's a lot of tribes in Oklahoma, and there's casinos going up everywhere, and it's just more competition, and I think in the future it's going to be more and more, and it's just going to bring less revenue. And
Right, you may be saturating the market.
Yeah.
Okay, and so maybe to address that, diversification is one of the
Yes,
strategies?
yeah. Just looking to other development, like I was saying, the solar energy and more hotels or anything else to bring revenue for the tribe.
Right, right. Other ideas about challenges that you need to address? Or maybe general challenges to the revenue stream? Kim, you and I were talking a little bit
Yeah, I
about
think
that.
one of the, obviously, we're concerned, and I think really everybody should be, every tribe in Oklahoma is probably concerned about the, what's going on in Washington DC with the federal budgets and stuff. We did receive we received a reduction this past year, and we're concerned about future reductions and what's going to play out. It's important for Congress and people in Washington to know that the tribes have treaties like the Kickapoo with the federal government, and these are something that was, the United States should honor those treaties and those obligations that it made long ago.
Supreme law of the land, the Constitution says about treaties.
And we hope they remember that when it comes to the budget times, because these are we are real people out here, and the people definitely have health issues, and we want to continue to be a functioning government with sovereignty, and we want that respected by the United States, and we hope that the funding is there for those activities, especially healthcare and education and those type of things.
Okay, so, and I think that's important to clarify. Even though casino profits are helping, they do not cover the entirety.
They do not cover everything, and that's one of their concerns. If the budget cuts are very drastic, we're going to have to look at reducing employees, or laying people off work. And these are real people with real jobs, with real families to support.
Okay, important to know. In talking about budget cuts, Jenna, maybe you've got some ideas about that.
Well, yeah, because that's what we were talking about, our casino profits. It's we're a self-governance tribe. That means we've got our own tribal police, our own tribal court, and of course you see our clinic and everything. We've got daycare, we got Head Start and everything. But yeah, I'm glad to say we don't really fully depend on the federal monies, but majority that we get for federal monies, and if they're doing budget cuts, that's where our casino profits are going to come in to supplement these programs. Because this last shutdown they had, if they didn't open back up by November 1st, we were getting ready to furlough some of our employees, cut some down to part-time, and unfortunately maybe have to lay some off, and I don't know if the federal government realizes that.
Well, we were talking too, when we were talking about budget cuts, about cuts that sometimes happen to education budgets here in the state. And you were talking about where casino profits go. Could you speak to that?
That was one of my concerns was, all these tribes in Oklahoma that have casinos, we have to give the state, we have a gaming compact. We have to sign with the state saying we're giving them a certain percentage of our profit, okay? But then I see on TV, I hear people talk about education, the state of Oklahoma, our education. We need more money for education. But yet, all these tribes are giving the state money. What are they doing with that money?
So even as education budgets are getting a new revenue stream, every year we hear, for instance, about dropping budgets for education in the state.
I'd like to hold the state accountable for that money.
Certainly, it looks like Indian casino profits are subject to a great deal of scrutiny.
Yes, we are. By the federal and the state, and then...
I bet you guys got them on speed dial, haven't you? Yeah. All right, well, thank you again for letting us come. You talked to us a little bit about, we've got Kickapoo people all over the nation, and it sounds like there's sort of no clear line of where one group starts and where the other group ends. And in fact, maybe, how does that work in terms of citizenship?
It just basically depends on where your parents choose to enroll you. With us, we don't have any stipulations on you have to live in our jurisdiction or our reservation. I know the traditional tribe of Texas, you do have to live on their reservation for 3 years, I believe. Oklahoma, you don't, and then Kansas, I don't believe you do.
Okay.
It's just kind of up to your parents on where, if they want to enroll you here.
It sounds like there's a lot of exchange back and forth, and that there's a real kind of welcoming hospitality.
The Kickapoo tribe of Texas, our traditional tribe of Texas, used to be part of us. And then they split off on their own and formed their own tribe. So there's a lot of relationship in there.
Okay, very good. Well, you've certainly been very welcoming to us, and so let me thank you again for that, and I imagine that you would love to welcome other people to come pay a visit, maybe stay at the new hotel, maybe pay a visit to the casino. Sure. So, come see the Kickapoo out in Hara, Shawnee, and McLeod. And so, thanks again.
Thank you.